Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is stage 16 of the Giro d'Italia. Just over 200 kilometers on today's stage, about 125 miles in length. So it's going to be a monster stage in 5 categorized climbs. The last category 1 climb that'll finish off today's stage will summit at the top. And this climb at over 20 kilometers long is going to be a monster if you want to win today's stage or take the general classification's pink race leader's jersey at the end of stage 16 of the Giro. Well, when the racing begins, they're going right along the lake coast there. Things get exciting right away. We'll see a bit of a crash going through the roundabout. That's Sepp Kuss American. And then, of course, we see Ineos right there with him. There's going to be a split in the peloton. It's a big old split. And behind in the second group that Sepp Kuss and Ineos have bridged back up to after their crash, up on the front of that is FDJ chasing full gas. In front of them, though, is the main part of the peloton, and attacks are going left and right as nobody's waiting for the second part of the peloton to come back together here on stage 16. The peloton will go through a tunnel, and then when they come out of the tunnel, 17 guys are going up the road here on stage 16. Just behind those 17, we'll see 6 and 3 more bridge back to come together to make 9 guys chasing 17. Those two groups will come together to put 26 riders in the front group. Only problem with this front group, when you look at, there's a thread on the general classification from AG2R's Aurelien Parapentre, who's 4 minutes and 30 seconds back on the general classification. And then, of course, there's Patrick Conrad in there at 9 minutes and Jack Haig from Bahrain Victorious at just under 8 minutes on the general classification. Now, normally you say 26 guys, there's going to be big time pressure put on all the GC teams behind, because when you look up front in that group, there's also 2 Ineos riders in there, Ben Swift and Salvatore Puccio. Neither one, though, is a climber. Neither one's a threat on the general classification. So what's going to happen in this group of 26? Well, you look in there further, and of course, there's some climbers in there. Jack Haig, Bahrain Victorious, is in there, but he's only got a sprinter with him, Jonathan Milan. You look back over at some of the other teams, UAE Team Emirates, it's Diego Ulisses. They're not going to be happy with having Diego in this group. He can't win the stage. And he's got Almeida back there that is racing to win the Giro d'Italia here. So he's not going to want to do any work. You look at the Green Edge Project riders. 4 Green Edge Project riders in this group, but still they can't get together and start putting guys on the front. So what happens? Well, the front group here of 26, they're going pretty slow and easy up the first climb here on stage 16. And you know they must be, because Johnny Milan is still in this front group of 26. He'll stay there and he'll actually take the sprint competition line later as we get further into this stage. We come up to the first KOM, though, before that sprint line competition, and we'll see Ben Healy, EF Education, another threat in this group of 26 to win the stage, if they can get to the finish, that is. And he'll take maximum points going over the first KOM. That'll put him in the race KOM blue jersey at the end of today's stage. Now, that was really the most exciting part of the beginning of this stage, because behind FDJ, when that group of 26 were going up the road, pink jersey Bruno Armai was having a little discussion with Jumbo-Visma, and then both those teams will come to the front and start riding the front of the peloton, with Eduardo Affini from Jumbo-Visma doing bulk of the work early here in stage 16. Up front, the group's not working well together. We'll see an attack with just under 100 kilometers to go from 2 Astana riders. That's Pronsky and Christian Scaroni up there that are going full gas. They won't get too much of a gap back there on the group behind, though, because AG2R is going to start doing some work trying to keep the 2 Astana riders in check. Those guys will get pulled back together with about 50 kilometers to go here in stage 16. So we still know there's a battle possibly for the stage victory up front. What happened behind, though, is with about 60 kilometers to go, Eduardo Affini started going full gas there in the peloton, and it started blowing up everything on the penultimate climb here. Jumbo-Visma have shown that they want to go full gas here. After Eduardo Affini pulled off, we'll see Michael Hessman at the front. Koen Bouwman's up there. Rowan Dennis is in there. And then we see Primoz Roglic a little bit further back. As the breakaway comes off the penultimate climb, they got the last valley to go through. And every time I'm sitting watching this race, as they're coming through the valley, I'm like, what are you knuckleheads doing? All you guys are knuckleheads up here, with the exception of probably AG2R, because they're doing everything they can with only 2 riders to see if they can get one of the brothers a shot at possibly taking pink or winning the stage. So up there, AG2R is working, but every time you look at the picture of everyone else, they're going back to the cars, they're fanning out wide, nobody's doing any work up there. They're just not gelling well together. With just about 21 kilometers to go when the last climb starts proper, we'll see the gap at about 3 minutes behind but the peloton. Now the peloton's coming full gas. Now they're motivated to try to bring everybody back for a stage victory and a pink jersey switch here at the end of today's stage 16. As we look back there, the peloton full gas starting this climb is Michael Hesman. He is going as hard as he can. We see Rowan Dennis there, Koen Bouwman's there, Sepp Kuss is locked in, and we see Primoz Roglic back there. So Jumbo-Visma are represented with a solid team up here at the front. Every time you look behind the Jumbo-Visma guys, though, there's good numbers from UAE Team Emirates with 4 riders on the front, near the front. And then, of course, Ineos and FDJ in pink, Bruno Armai, is still locked at the front of the peloton when the climb's starting proper. Well, Michael Hesman's had about enough pulling, about 2K into this climb proper, and then we're going to see Rowan Dennis start going to work. When Rowan Dennis goes to work, this is when we start seeing some devastation in the peloton as the Australian rider is stomping on the pedals. Peloton starts blowing up back there as everybody that's not a GC favorite's getting dropped, and the pink jersey starting to slip a little bit from the front of the peloton. Rowan Dennis will go all the way up to about 15 kilometers to go, and then when he blows, I'll back the film up just a little bit to show you that Koen Bouwman had blown before him. So there's only Sepp Kuss and Primoz Roglic now left at this front group when Rowan Dennis pulls off. I'm sitting on the Chesterfield. Whoa, this is going to get interesting now. Is Sepp Kuss really going to start riding from 15K out on the final climb? How long can the American kid do it? Well, the American kid's on form, but he doesn't have to get to the front yet, because just when we saw Rowan Dennis blow, UAE Team Emirates came to the front. It's Davide Formolo. Formolo is getting on the front, and he's starting to drive it. Now the breakaway up front, they're getting close. The gap's under a minute, getting down to 30 seconds with Davide Formolo really going full gas up front. Everybody's come out the back. The group is down to 25, 20 riders back there as Formolo's driving it. Then we start seeing the pink jersey start coming off the back. Once Formolo drops off, and it's Jay Vine, the next to get on the front for UAE Team Emirates with about 10 kilometers to go. With Jay Vine on the front, he's drilling it. We see Brandon McNulty, his teammate, just pulls out hard right and drops out of the back of the group. No shame in this because Jay Vine is blowing this group up on the front with Almeida locked on his wheel solid. We look behind Almeida. Geraint Thomas is looking good there. Primoz Roglic is still in the front part here. And then we see Eddie Dunbar. Now we look a little further back. Bahrain victorious Caruso, he's still locked on there. Everybody else is swinging at the back though. Thibaut Pinot's been back there swinging as we look and see that Jay Vine, once he starts catching the front group of the breakaway riders up there with Diego Ulissi, his teammate, Diego Ulissi gets on the front and starts pulling just before 8.5 kilometers to go for about 200-300 meters. And once he finishes his pull, this is when all chaos starts coming right here on stage 16. He's wrapped up every one of the original 26 riders that were up the road. Zana is still the last Jaco Lula rider there with Diego Ulissi that just got done blowing, and now it's time on the front for Jay Vine to do a little more work. You see Zana, he'll slide right in, but look behind as Jay Vine started doing his acceleration. You see Jay Vine, you see Almeida, and then you see the gap to Primoz Roglic as the Jumbo-Visma rider looks like he could be hurting with 8.5 kilometers to go. With Primoz Roglic with a little gap back there, he'll accelerate and he'll close the gap with Sepp Kuss on his wheel, and Eddie Dunbar is there. Everybody behind Eddie Dunbar has dropped off. There's 7 guys left in this front group. And we see Jay Vine finally finishes his pull and pulls off hard as he flicks his elbow, the chicken elbow out. He goes hard to the right, disappears out of the picture. Now it's Almeida time. Almeida gets on the front. He starts driving it for a little bit. Then all of a sudden he looks back and wants some help. He gets a little bit of help from Geraint Thomas, and then Geraint Thomas isn't getting any help. The pace slows a little bit, and we see Filippo Zana, the Italian national champion. He's coming to the front. Eddie Dunbar there gives him the look with a little bit of a nod. Don't get carried away. Zana goes to the front, pulls for a little bit. Then Zana blows. Now it's time for Almeida to go to work again. Once Almeida's on the front, things start getting interesting because now we've lost Zana. We're down to 6 guys in this front group. But again, Almeida's not getting the proper help, so he backs off and Sepp Kuss comes to the front. With Sepp Kuss on the front, we're going to see the first big attack come from Almeida. Almeida, the Portuguese rider, is going to put on a show here on stage 16 of the Giro. He throws in the first big acceleration. This gaps off Sepp Kuss and all the favorites back there. We got G. Thomas, though. He's interested. We got Primož Roglič. He's still there. And we got Eddie Dunbar. Jaco Lula, man, are you having a fantastic ride. I said way back there at Tour of Romandy, I didn't think he could go top 10, but he looks solid here today on stage 16, the first big mountain stage of the Giro, with Eddie Dunbar holding on to the back. We see Sepp Kuss at the front. Then all of a sudden, they're coming into this left bend hairpin. Look back there. Eddie Dunbar starting to open up the gap. Now let's take the camera to the front because Garrett Thomas is throwing in attack. G. Thomas throws in his attack. He bridges up to Almeida. Behind, what's happening to Primož Roglič? He can't handle the acceleration. The American Flying Eagle, Sepp Kuss, has to try to save the day for Primož Roglič. First, he's riding on the front. The gap's a little bit big there to Primož Roglič, so the American's going to have to back off a little bit. When he backs off, Primož Roglič comes on, and Eddie Dunbar gets salvation there from Sepp Kuss, as now we got 3 riders chasing 2 at the front. G. Thomas is on the front driving it hard. Almeida's maximum, and he just can't quite take a pull yet. He needs a little bit of recovery because he's already been off the front for more than a kilometer before Garrett Thomas is bridged up to him. Those 2 guys will start switching off. Garrett Thomas will do the bulk of the work coming into the final here after 4 kilometers to go. But every time we look back, every time Garrett Thomas looks back, he gets Almeida to come through and do a little pull. Almeida does a little pull for Portugal. And then, of course, Garrett Thomas will come back and start pulling. Behind, Sepp Kuss is trying to do damage control. The gap starts stretching out to about 20 seconds with about 3K to go. Once we get 2K to go, look at the gap. It's about 30-35 seconds to Sepp Kuss. Up front, G. Thomas is pulling and with about 1.5 kilometers to go. Then we see 1.2. All of a sudden, Almeida's coming through. We see Garrett Thomas do another pull up to about 900 meters to go. Then Almeida's going to come through from 900 to 700 meters to go. But when he puts Garrett Thomas back on the front of the 2-man group up front here, trying to win the stage and take the pink race leader's jersey, because Garrett Thomas is the highest on the general classification. But Almeida's not far behind him, sitting 3rd here on the GC. If you take away Bruno Armai, who's already dropped back there in the pink jersey, and he's going to lose pink here on stage 16. Now, what's happening behind Sepp Kuss? He's doing everything he can to reduce the damage with a K to go, and he's within sight still of these front 2 riders. G. Thomas will pull all the way into about 150 meters to go. Just before that, about 175, that's when Almeida started his acceleration. He comes around the right side there of Garrett Thomas, and it looks like a drag race, but only for about 25 meters. When he starts to blow, we see Almeida looks over to the right. He knows he's got the gap there on G. Thomas, and he accelerates all the way into the lines, veins coming out the side of the neck. The guy is screaming and spitting and yelling, going full gas all the way into finish to celebrate a huge Giro victory here for Portugal and UAE Team Emirates, coming across the line in front of Garrett Thomas to take a 10-second time bonus and to take the stage victory here at stage 16 of the Giro, put himself into 2nd of the general classification. Garrett Thomas will take back the pink jersey from Bruno Armai. And then behind, what was happening? Well, Sepp Kuss, the American Flying Eagle, he flew all the way into under 1K to go. Primož Roglič punched it back there as hard as he could. Eddie Dunbar, solid ride from the Jaco Lula rider as he's locked on to Primož Roglič wheel. He'll start trying to sprint through for the finish with about 175 meters to go, until Primož Roglič comes back by the Jaco Lula rider to round out the podium here for 3rd and for a 4-second time bonus here on stage 16. When it's all said and done, Garrett Thomas, like I said, is in pink. Almeida sitting 2nd at 18 seconds. Primož Roglič on the general classification is at 20 seconds back there, so he's still got a shot. Damage control was done big time today by Sepp Kuss, who whatever Jumbo Visma's paying him, you guys, you better double that stuff because he's well worth it. I have seen Sepp Kuss save the day many times throughout the last 3-4 seasons of racing here at the European Peloton, and nobody saves Primož Roglič better than the American Sepp Kuss does, as I've seen done many, many times in Grand Tours. So, what's on hold for tomorrow? Well, looks like a sprinter stage, right? Well, there's not too many sprinters left, though. So Cavendish, who I saw attacking early in today's stage 16, he better have his Astana teammates ride in the front as good as they possibly can, and hopefully he's made some kind of deal back there with some of the other sprinter teams like Movistar to control the race throughout the whole stage tomorrow, so the sprinter teams can bring it all the way into the finish, and we could have another field sprint here on tomorrow's stage 17. The general classification battle, what do we got to look forward to? Well, there's 2 more mountain stages, big ones, and then the individual time trial that has an 8-kilometer mountain finish on that stage. So Primož Roglič, at just under 30 seconds back, still has time to make up for today's just a bit off of form here if he wants to still try to win the Giro d'Italia. Now, he was my favorite before the Giro started. He was my favorite when I saw Remco Evenepoel leading from stage 1 and winning the individual time trial on stage 9, and he's still my favorite. This is damage control. This is what I was saying yesterday on Beyond the Coverage. If you have one bad day, you can't fix it if you wait all the way to the individual time trial. So he's going to have to find a way to fix it after tomorrow's sprint finish stage if he wants to be able to win the Giro d'Italia. But like I said, with 30 seconds, he's 28 seconds back. You got time bonuses available, you got 2 more big stages, and you have the individual time trial. So we have a 3-way battle right here amongst the general classification guys with G. Thomas, Almeida from Portugal, the rider who won today's stage for UAE team members. Congratulations, that was a fantastic day to watch. And Primož Roglič is still there with a battle. We got a great Giro d'Italia to come. Make sure you like and subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next edition real soon.